We also talked about, Jason and I and Russ Steffens, have talked about putting together a sports academy, math, English, science, and history, and doing a sports academy. And an entire academy is surrounded by sports, maybe for senior electives. The other academy that we're thinking about doing and we're trying to get up and running is a media studies academy. We have, being so close to Hollywood, being with our clientele, we have a unique opportunity to set up a visual media program, whether it's through animation, cinema, including the IB film class, which I teach. Also journalism, broadcasting, radio. We have a tremendous opportunity to do this and to partner with that entity that's sitting downtown. So those are some of the things that I kind of took from it, and just changing the way I look at education, bringing in technology. I'm not afraid of the cell phones anymore. I'm not worried about the cell phones anymore. It just, it's a part of their life, and trying to find a way to, as Jason said, to use that technology in there, because frankly, they're going to use it whether we want them to or not. And anyways, that's my spiel today. So, thank you.
When Todd talks about the academies and the idea of cross-curricular learning, of not operating in foxholes, which of course is the way real life works, that's what we're talking about. And when I call Russ and Amy up here in just a second, they've been working on a program called I Can Learn, which has we're still in first semester, but had some really exciting results. Russ is getting mad at me now because I'm bragging. But let me call Russ up here with Amy to go ahead and talk about the I Can Learn program.
I'm not mad at it. But I do talk too much, and so Amy and I teamed up here because she is wonderful. Got everything out of Amy and I have talked about this, of what Todd, I don't want to repeat a lot of that, so it's not like we didn't get stuff out of the model schools while she's setting up. Agree with all of that. This was one of the conferences I went to, other than maybe a CATA conference for activities directors, where everybody there wants to learn something, from the adult standpoint. It was really, really good to see that. They weren't there to go play golf and to do all the other stuff. They actually went to the sessions. We collaborated, stayed up all night long. Todd, where's Todd? Where'd he go? He hates me because he never got to bed before 3 a.m. And we're just talking all night long. It's a really, really great conference. We want to thank you guys again for sending us there for that. Now that I'm rambling, one of the things that we did come up with, both of us went at a different time, and I was so excited about it. I ran back to hers and left a session early, which wasn't easy to do. And it was this I Can Learn. And go ahead, Amy.
Okay, before I talk about I Can Learn, I just want to say I'm a math teacher at Agora, and I also teach yearbook, go Agora. Anyway, I also grew up in the district. Okay, moving on. What I learned at the conference was education is changing, and it's not just like the veteran teachers can turn to me and be like, hey, oh, this change will fizzle out. Well, it might, but this is where the world is going, so let's go with it. Another thing, how to spread change. You don't come back to school and be like, I demand that you do this. No, that's not going to work. You got to, little by little, show them how it works. And then, oh, that's cool. And then they jump on the bandwagon. You got to make things rigorous and relevant. I've tried in my math class. I started with geometry. I've tried to come up with a project per chapter, trying to relate it to the kid's life. A coworker of mine did this. A coworker of mine and I did this, and I will be honest, I skipped one project for one chapter. Things were swamped, the kids were going crazy, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to skip it. And then, as Todd talked about, we often teach too much, like algebra. We're cramming in the chapters. What needs to be tested, and what do we need in the real world? The rest, if you have time, throw it in. But, if you don't need it, why teach it, I guess, in the end. Okay, I Can Learn. Moving on. I Can Learn is an interactive, self-paced, mastery-based software. Pretty much every student is sitting in front of a computer in a computer lab, learning on their own, which is kind of cool because they have their own teacher that goes with them along the way. The teacher's still in the classroom, but so they work at their own computer, and the coolest part is that it's custom built. You can actually align the program to the order of your textbook. So, we're going to do, measuring and classifying angles first. Well, let's get the program to do that first. So it kind of lines up with what everyone else is doing at the school as well. And you can align it to the state standards. So it goes with California. If you're in Missouri, you can work with Missouri. And the cost per student is about $43.48. I think there's also a setup fee, but once you have it set up, I believe that's the cost per student, which my guess would be less than a textbook. Okay, so when you start a lesson, this is what comes up. It tells you the title of the lesson. Wouldn't you always like to know what you're learning before you start learning it? So this lesson that I did the demo on was measuring and classifying angles. Before you start a lesson, there's a pretest. It's about 10 questions long. If you get 100%, you get to skip the lesson altogether. So let's say you're starting chapter 2. You're at lesson 1. You get 100%. Okay, move on to lesson 2. Why bother teaching it if you already know it? So now they're on lesson 2. They get one of the questions wrong. Okay, they obviously don't understand all of the material. So the pretest stops and the lesson just begins. So that's the pretest part. Then there's always a warm-up. Just kind of get kids getting ready to start. The little screen for warm-up comes up. It's usually 1 or 2 questions long. Here's an example. Identify the vertex of the angle. If you don't get the question right the first time, it gives you a little hint. Okay, so then there's the lesson presentation. It's either one of 2 things. It's either a video or direct instruction. The video can be a real-life situation. So the example you'll see in a second is a skateboard creator talking about angles. The skateboards have to be certain angles. So kind of relating it to real life. The other videos could be maybe they videotaped a teacher actually teaching at the board, and so the kid watches it on the screen. And then, or there's direct instruction where text and images come up and the person talks in the background. Okay, so this was the skateboard guy. This was a video lesson. You can say it says videos 1 of 8, so this was the first one. The kids can pause, go backwards. They can fast forward, but that's a setting you choose to allow them to do. So then here's going through the lesson. I just wanted to show you we're now on video 2 of 8. Kind of color codes things for you as well. Here, I had to move the protractor onto the angle. You get the idea. Here, the kids have to write this in their notebook. It kind of reminds them, oh, this is something good to know. Write it in your notebook. And there's a little notebook thing on top to kind of clue them in on what they're supposed to be doing. After the lesson, there is the tutor. The tutor gives quiz-like questions. So it prepares you for the quiz, kind of like a pretest. It gives you hints. And if you get the question wrong twice, it goes automatically into an explanation of why this answer is right and the rest are wrong. So, this was an example. Which pair of the following angles are supplementary? If I got it wrong the first time, it gives me a hint. If I got it completely wrong the second time, it goes through, and you can kind of see all 4 options were at top of the answers. It went through the 3 on the right to show why they didn't work, showed little images of why it doesn't work, and then it bolds the one that's correct. So that's kind of fun. And then if you get it right, it does something really fun, like great work or fantastic. It excites you. It's always fun. Sometimes kids need that motivation in math. After the tutor comes the quiz. It's 10 questions long. You must pass with a 70% to move on, but that's set by the teacher. So if you're in the beginning of the semester maybe, and it's essential topics, you might want the kids to get 100%. But as you move on, 70%. So you can choose. It shows a solution but does not go into the explanation like the tutor did. And if the student does not pass, they can go back to either the tutor or the lesson presentation. And so then here was a quiz question. This one was multiple choice. Whoops, that one's multiple choice. This one's free response. You have to fill in the answer. And then at the end, it tells you your score. So when I did the demo, I got one of the low questions incorrect. So the total correct was 9, total incorrect was 1. I did that on purpose, by the way. Okay. So when you go back through the quiz, you can go through quiz solutions. It shows you the little green check. You got that one right. But this one, I got wrong. So that's the one with the big X. You click the solution button, and it will take you to the answer, pretty much. And then tests. The computer generates its own tests, but you can provide your own. Right now at our school, Russ is using the test that I use in my class. So I teach an AB class, and he teaches an AB class. His class is on the computer, mine is taught by me every single day. So, we've been using the test in my class, in his class, and here you can actually see his class is doing much better. Because the tutor sits with them along the way, every day. You got this wrong, this is why. You know, can you do it now? And it just keeps going with them every day. So it's like they have their own tutor in front of them. Like, what more could you ask for? It's not like we can hire a teacher per student. So anyway, that's our class comparison. And then that's the website, icanlearnonline.com. And if you wanted to have your own free sample or free trial, you click sample lesson. Any questions?
Hilliard, please. She's going to talk to us about RTI. She has a PowerPoint presentation. She's Assistant Superintendent of Education for LDUSD. And welcome.
And Sandy Pope, I believe, is going to be my co-presenter with, yes, so she'll be telling you the teacher's perspective. So what I'd like to talk with you about this evening is RTI, Response to Intervention. I'm going to give you a little bit of the background, first of all. RTI stems from a federal law that dates way back to 1975, which was PL 94-142, and that is the special ed federal law. And under that federal law, in order for a student to qualify for special education as having a learning disability, we needed to wait until there was a significant discrepancy between ability and achievement. So in other words, we had to wait until they failed before we could even assess and consider giving them intervention. Make sense to you? Well, it went on for quite a few years, and fortunately, it didn't make sense to legislators either. When they reauthorized that law in 2004 with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, they said that that IQ discrepancy criterion really was potentially harmful to students. Hello? And so they changed that. And they said that local education agencies may use a process that determines if the child responds to a scientifically research-based intervention as part of the evaluation procedure. And so at that point, our state, in bringing themselves into compliance with federal law, said that districts must commit to building an early and rigorous student intervention system, and it is called Response to Instruction and Intervention, or RTI squared. Okay? So now you can share with your friends and neighbors where RTI came from. What is it? It's called Response to Intervention. It's the practice of providing high-quality, research-based instruction and interventions that match students' needs. Multi-tiered intervention systems. We are using professional learning communities, teams of professionals that are getting staff development, learning about research-based interventions, using data to make decisions about what will be helpful and a good intervention for students. And then progress monitoring so that we're continuing to use data to make decisions. So there are four key questions that we ask when we're taking a look at student learners. One, what exactly do we expect all learners to learn? What is the curriculum? How will we know if and when they've learned it? And more critically for RTI, how will we respond when some students don't learn? And how will we respond when some students have already learned and need some acceleration? So you see that we're looking at both ends of the spectrum, not just remedial, but accelerated as well. And so typically when you see an RTI model, you see this lovely pyramid of interventions. They come in various forms. This is one of my favorites. And it shows you the three tiers. Your bottom tier is tier 1, the green tier. You notice that's the largest tier. 80-some% of our students should be understanding, learning, progressing with the curriculum that we present in our classrooms every day. And so that's tier 1. Within tier 1, we do a lot of differentiation, and Sandy will probably talk about that a little bit. But we are using groupings within tier 1. We're using a variety of strategies. You saw some fabulous things that they are bringing back from model schools that our schools are using. Those are all tier 1 kind of strategies that are helping that 80 to 90% of students learn.